Good afternoon. It's David Celine and Chris Scully from Drive. And today we have special guest from Fullbay with us. Patrick is the CEO of Fullbay. So welcome on the show, Patrick.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Yes. So Fullbay is a shop management system mainly designed for the truck shops, if I get this right, Patrick, and really catered to the truck shop needs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are squarely focused on the heavy duty shops. So you won't see us playing with many of the automotive focused shops. We really want to focus on solving problems for the heavy duty repair industry.
Okay, great. And I've seen Fullbase software. It's a great software and everything. But one of the things I want to talk about is we're going to kind of talk about things about advancing your shop with technology and using the right technology systems in here. But I want our viewers to know this doesn't just apply to the truck shops over here. Yes, Fullbay is focused on the truck shops, but if you listen to what we're saying and how they got it up, you need to be having systems like this in place because it's vital to your business's success. And, so Patrick, I start thinking about it and all the different things and the interactions of a shop management system. It's massive, the amount of stuff that the shop management system needs to do and should do for your business. But, I want us to start breaking it down really simple. Let's just start with the basic thing. One of the first things to be a business, you got to get customers in the door. You got to find new customers. You got to deal with your existing customers. So let's talk about that and how Fullbay can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you start off with a good point that while Fullbay is focused on heavy duty, I think a lot of the concepts that we talk about, translate very well to other parts of the transportation vertical. So I think everybody will be able to take something away. It starts with getting business into the shop, and whether it's a new shop or a shop that's decided wants to grow or open up a new location, or just as generally part of the business, needing to get new customers. There's a lot of ways that's happened traditionally, and more. I mean, you've seen this in other industries, but more and more, that demand generation is going online, right? It's no longer just billboards and mailers. It is digital marketing, and one of the things that we point to is, and Drive is a great example, right? Someone who knows the industry working to help you drive demand. Driving demand, if you're a heavy duty shop, the way that you do that is different than maybe an automotive shop. And it starts with a website. And most people nowadays have a website, but continually looking at are there better ways to structure my website so that I'm actually using it as a marketing tool. And then you go deeper and look at search engine optimization and search engine marketing and social media channels. There's all these digital channels that your customers interact with, and you can use those to help drive business to your shop. So working with somebody who actually knows your industry is so important, because you're not having to train them on what types of customers you're looking for, how to effectively target the end customer that you're really looking for. So the first thing would be working with somebody who actually knows your industry, and their Drive does a great job of that as well. The piece I want to talk about, though, that relates back to the core Fullbay platform is not just conducting these marketing activities blindly, saying, I think I should spend 3 to 5% of my budget on marketing, but actually being able to look at return on investment for your marketing campaigns. It's really easy for you to look at the cost of each of those campaigns to be able to say, I'm spending X amount of money, advertising on Google, and X amount of money advertising on Facebook. But how do you actually take that and tie it back to real metrics to understand how effective that's doing? And so when you look at having a shop management system like Fullbay, we're able to take in those new customers that your marketing campaigns get you, attribute where that new customer came from, and then give you insight into not just how many new customers came from each of those marketing activities, but how profitable were they? Were these good customers or bad customers? Do they do just a few low margin pieces of business with you, or do they give you a lot of work, and especially the type of work that you want? It's got good margins on it, what's their payment history like. So when you're able to capture all this data in your shop management system and then tie it back to all of your digital marketing efforts, I think that's where you start to take your efforts to the next level. So you can really make data-driven decisions around what you're doing to drive business in your shop.
That's so important. I know Chris was fixing to chime in, but I think that's so important, knowing where it comes through. But, we don't think about it. We do see the money that you're spending on marketing. We've talked about ROI on marketing in so many different ways over here. But when you can get the right data, you can narrow it down to this group of customers will only spend this much. They'll only fix what's necessary to keep the truck running or moving down the road, but they won't do any of the upsell work. They don't do this, or you'll know how much time are we spending with them. There's pieces of it that I see in there because I've worked in the truck shop, owned a truck shop, and I also see this, that customer that you have to spend 4 hours on the phone with to get authorization and get payment from versus that customer that comes in and says, okay, just get it fixed and then call me and I'll send you the money over. There's a big difference on that we don't see in efficiency on the front end of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not using a robust shop management platform to track all those activities related to the customer, then it's either just anecdotally you're trying to remember, oh yeah, this is a real pain of a customer, and I think this is what brought them into my shop, versus, oh, I think this is a great customer and here's what brought them to the shop. So it's just, every industry adopts this at a different rate, and I think that our industry is starting more to adopt data-driven decision making, which eventually is going to get you to a better result.
Absolutely. Now, one thing that's kind of a maxim in marketing is that it's always less expensive and takes less effort to bring in repeat business compared to constantly going after new business. And so you talked about some of the approaches to the marketing actions to bring in new business, but what about that repeat business? How does Fullbay function in that regard? How does that help the shop with that?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about how do you drive retention and repeat business, I mean, it's got to start with making it overall, this sounds like a trite phrase, a pleasurable experience for that customer to do business with your shop. And that means a couple of things. It has to be easy. Even if you do a great job servicing my trucks, if it's a real pain to work with you, it takes me forever to get you on the phone to request service, or I don't, it's hard for me to understand the status of my services, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go to a shop where it's easy to do business. So I think that you talk about getting new customers into the shop. Well, once they're there, now that's where Fullbay kind of helps you shine. Right? Fullbay is designed to make the business of running that shop easier, and ultimately that leads to happier customers who come back.
That's great.
So when we're moving through it, there's so many aspects like we're talking about. We focused on the front end, getting customers in and tracking their ROI. You've got them in there. Now you're doing the repairs on it, but there's so much more that the management systems have to do. And I know Fullbay does a lot of this, but the communication between the front and the back, the improved efficiency, making it simple on your employees to do things. Because I've seen that so often that there's some things out there that are some systems, and we've ran across it, Chris, we see it all the time. A shop owner will get a system put into the shop. They think it's the best system in the world because that's how their mind operated and what they wanted to operate like. But the employees struggle with it, have a hard time. It eats up extra time. So I know you guys, Fullbay, helps with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it really comes down to making everything easier for every person that touches that process, and that's your customers and your employees. You can really start with, how do I request service, right? And that can be difficult for your customer and for the employees, right? So one of the things Fullbay does is it gives your customers an easy way to request service. So every one of the shop customers has their own portal, but they can do a lot within this portal that we'll talk about. But one of those things is requesting service, right? There's not, a bunch of phone numbers to try to get a hold of someone at the shop. You can go in through your portal request service. As a shop owner, you can choose when one of my customers does that, what happens? Do I get a text message? Do I get an email? Do I get a phone call? Or do I just go into the application and see, all of my new service requests? So that lightens the load for people in the shop, while also making it really easy for the customers. And beyond just specific service requests, that you can set up those reminders for preventive maintenance, for DOT reminders. So all these things that'll help customers to feel like, wow, it's easy to do business with that shop and not make it overly burdensome on your employees. And then the final way, just to add on there around requesting services, you also can do things like integrate a breakdown service like FleetNet directly into Fullbay, so that when you get that emergency service request through FleetNet, it comes directly into Fullbay and follows that same workflow that you have set up for anything new that comes in. And then once it comes in, it's a workflow issue, right? How is your shop going to choose to handle all that business that it gets? So we can talk a little bit about how we handle that as well.
That's awesome. And one of the things you said, I think, is a really key point for any shop to keep in mind when you're talking about technology and shop management systems. And I know from talking to clients about who've adopted Fullbay and went from one system to Fullbay, is that it is easy to use. And when you try to get your employees to use a system that's not easy to use, they don't use it. And then you're kind of wasting your money if that's happening. And that's one of the nice things that I've heard from our clients about Fullbay is the ease of use and how much more efficient they got after switching to Fullbay.
Yeah, it's definitely an area of focus for us. And we're not perfect, and we will never cease trying to make the system easier to use, whether it's through better UI or streamlined workflows. But you're absolutely right. The system could help the back office and help the management team as much as it can. But if it is not easy for the technicians or service manager to use, they're just not going to use it, or they're going to go to a shop where it's easy for them to get their job done. So we focus a lot on that. And that's one of the nice things about offering software as a service is we don't have to say, hey, Chris, I sold you this software package. It is what it is forever until you want to, buy an upgrade. Our platform, every time we make a release, every customer gets access to that. And we release software every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, we're able to make meaningful changes. And one of the areas that we continually try to focus on is, what can we do in the system to make it easier for a technician or for a service manager or for a parts manager to just get their job done.
Well, and this kind of brings up when we're talking about using the system and getting everybody to get their jobs done on there. And we've seen this through many different things over here. We deal with customers on this all the time, but training your employees from the get-go how to use it properly. I know you probably already know the importance on it, but Chris, how many clients would you say that have shop management systems and everything else and probably use 10% of what it's capable of doing?
Oh, if
and
that.
not just because they got, I want to just use it to use this right here. I only wanted to track my parts, or I only wanted to track my invoices, and everything else we'll do on the side. And, Patrick, I bring that up because I know a lot of our clients that are listening and will listen to our show need to understand that it's about training your employees to use whatever system you're using. But I know you said your system's a lot easier to train and everything. Talk somebody through if they were to switch to you. What is the training process? What does it take to get them employees up and using Fullbay?
Yeah, that's a great question. A good topic, because so many times a software company will talk all about the great functionality they have, but at the end of the day, if a user can't figure out how to access that and use it doesn't matter. Right. So we do a number of things. So when a new customer comes on board, we assign them to our onboarding team, and that onboarding specialist job is, to basically go through. There's obviously some setup and configuration that has to happen so that the system is set up the way that the shop wants it to be set up. But then it's a training exercise, and we've learned through some trial and error that everyone learns differently, right? Some people might want to get on the phone and say, Chris, David, let me walk you through how to do X, Y, and Z. Other people might say, can you send me a video that I can watch on my own time? And the third person might say, let me just read. You have a little manual on this part of the system I can read. And so we try to attack it that way, where we want to meet people where they are and how they want to learn. So that's what people can expect is some flexibility around the learning paths and the ability to consume on-demand video training, on-demand written training, live question and answer sessions, to really make sure that everybody learns in their own way.
That's great. And it's so important because I've worked with a number of different industries where the business owner buys a piece of software or subscribes to something and they don't take that step to learn it. And it's amazing what they don't know about what they have and what they're paying for. So that you have a bunch of different ways for people to learn is fantastic.
So, and in an ideal world, if you think about, we're on Facebook Live. I doubt anyone on this Facebook Live cast ever took a training class on how to use Facebook. Right? The holy grail is, can we make it so easy that you can just figure it out and work through it? Sadly, I think running an entire shop on the software platform is a little bit more complicated than figuring out how to use a social network. But right. That's the ideal is make it easy enough so that you don't have to go through massive amounts of training. And that's a work in progress, right? We'll get there eventually. We're certainly not there today.
Okay. So the next question now, we talked a little bit about the front office, the customer interaction. Describe Fullbay's, how do you guys work between the front office and the technicians in the back? Because I believe you guys have a system where tablets, or is it computer based? Let our viewers know exactly how you're doing the workflow between the front and the back.
Yeah. So, when I say software as a service, everybody might not know what that means, but effectively, this is a web-based application. Right? So any device that's connected to the internet and can get on an internet browser, Bing or Safari or Chrome, they can access the platform through that device. That could be an iPad or a phone or a tablet. So the nice thing about a software as a service platform is you can access it in the shop or in the back office and have access to the same data. And that's one of the key things is everything is in one place. But there's no chasing around pieces of paper or losing the paper. So I know when I go in and I assign technicians to a job, that happens, and I can always see that. And those technicians can then track their hours to those jobs. Those technicians can create estimates that can, depending on your approval workflow, go directly to customers or go to the parts department to, have parts added and quoted before going off for authorization. And I think the key point there is it's all in one place. And whether it's a technician out in a bay, or a parts manager in the back room, or a service manager, everyone can see what's going on that service order, all in one place without having to have any risk of miscommunication.
Yeah, and as you describe this, I know a lot of our customers have talked to us about this. The fact that if you're doing mobile repair, this is really big for them because it's no longer picking up the phones, waiting for the service advisor to get free or anything like that. Your mobile techs out on the side of the road or at a customer's yard can communicate right back to the office with just right through the system.
Yeah, exactly. And that has a lot of benefits throughout the entire process, from creating the estimate to quoting parts to getting authorization, and then finally to having that invoice generated and getting that invoice paid. And if you're a mobile service provider, nothing worse than going out, working a job and then having to go back to the office, figure out how to spin up an invoice, make sure that you remember everything you did out in the field, and make sure you accurately captured all of your time to then create the invoice and send it off for payment. What we're doing is putting that all in that technician's hand, where you can go from creation of the estimate, have the customer approve it there on site, do the work, ultimately create the invoice in front of the customer, and they can pay it right there, whether that's a card swipe or a keyed credit card transaction. You can actually accept payment right there on the side of the road.
Well, and that's pretty big. And I just so I explain this to a lot of people that don't have mobile service. You go out on the side of the road doing truck repair, you get called out, you go on it, you got to create an invoice. You don't want your technician to leave that vehicle on the side of the road until you know you've been paid. And the reason for that is if you do, that truck may just be on down the road and in another state before you even get back to your office.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's not much you're going to be able to do about that, other than just not service that truck again.
Yes. So as we're moving back through on the workflow and stuff, that everything and the features of Fullbay here, let's talk about now. We got into the workflow, being able to communicate with the text and everything in the back, but there's also the piece now. How does it help with the full accounting side of it and the backup, what I call the back office of it, tracking your sales, and knowing that you got paid for this, the income and all that?
Yeah, I mean, invoicing is a key area of the platform, right? I mean, essentially, we're a billing management system as well, right? There's nothing worse than doing a job and not getting paid for it, or doing a job and sending out an incorrect invoice. So when it comes to invoicing, I have to say two things are paramount: timeliness and accuracy. And I'm not sure which one I would trade. I don't think I want to get paid quickly the wrong amount, but I don't want to take months to get paid the correct amount. So those are the two things that we really try to go after. So when you look at the accuracy side, back to the fact that everything is in one place, all the time that a technician is logging doesn't then have to be transferred over to an invoice. I mean, that is the service order that becomes the invoice. So we're going to make sure that we're accurately accounting for all the time that should be billed on that invoice. And then the same thing with a part. As a part is pulled from inventory, it's on that invoice. So the accuracy, you can know that your invoices will be more accurate. And then you think about the timeliness, right? You can in one place see all the invoices that haven't been sent out or have been sent out and not paid. So we focus on making it easy to get those invoices out to the customers. And then years ago, I was working on a different industry, and we talked a lot about, shockingly, if you make it easy for people to pay you, they're more likely to pay you. And we really do focus on that, is that, we want to make it easy for a customer to pay the shop. So they can electronically pay through their customer portal. You have the ability to text or email links directly to people to pay. And we have a product called Fullbay Payments, where we can process all of those payments directly within Fullbay, and not just credit card payments. We can handle ACH payments. You can, for, hopefully most of your customers, if not all, are repeat customers. You can store payment methods. So once I take your credit card one time, I'll store it securely. And then anytime you go in to authorize a payment, you don't have to enter that payment detail again. You can just ding the payment method that was already on file. So that's a big piece in the back office. And then when you get into the accounting side, so we are not, a full-on accounting system, but we provide a lot of financial reporting to the business, so you can get a good overall look at profitability, at AAR, and then we have an integration. Most of our clients use QuickBooks. So you have a direct integration where you're not double entering things. You don't have to enter or create an invoice in QuickBooks that was created in Fullbay and paid. So that feed between QuickBooks and Fullbay really makes and usually it's not an accountant. Usually it's the shop owner who is either personally or very closely monitoring all of that happening. So we really make that happen more easily and more quickly.
Okay,
That's great.
And you brought up a point over here on the ease of invoicing customers and everything. And Patrick, you'll laugh when I say this, but I've met shop owners before that we've talked to, we've worked with, and we walk in and we say, okay, let's take a look at your accounts receivable. And we find out they have $200,000-$300,000 worth of accounts receivable sitting there. And we say, okay, we need to work on this. You need to get it done. Well, I got to get time to make the invoice. And that's what I don't know how many times I've heard that. Well, where's the invoice at right now? Well, the service advisor and all them, but I check all the invoices and I don't send them out to my customers until I've checked them. And I'm sitting there going, you got $200,000 just sitting out there in the open air, waiting on you to invoice stuff. This sounds like your system helps take care of that problem right there.
It does 100%. I mean, I think almost to a person, every one of the Fullbay customers that have come on, especially from a pen and paper or manual process, would say, wow, we don't miss invoices anymore, and we don't have, dramatically large AR balances building up. And I mean, now, interest rates are going up, and that impacts a lot of parts of the economy, but it certainly makes it more painful to be, extending essentially unlimited credit terms to clients at 0% interest. So that's an important thing for shops to focus on these days.
Okay. Well, Patrick, we are coming up on our time for today and everything, but what I want to tell everybody and all of our viewers and everything, look, you can find Fullbay and Patrick and everybody will be at our expo coming up in August 24th through the 28th. I know that Fullbay has a full lunch and learn session to learn all about their product. They have a booth at the trade show floor. Come up, introduce yourselves to them, come and see what they got to offer, take a look at their software, see if it's a great fit for your shop, which like I said, we have a lot of truck shops that say it's the best fit they've had. So this is a great opportunity. Come to the expo, come and see Fullbay, see what they got to offer, and see how you can advance your shop onto this. So Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Florida.
Yes. So.
Right.
And then for all of our viewers right now, thank you. Have a great weekend. And then next week on Friday, July 22nd, we will be with Dennis Goodhue of Diamond G Repair, long-term drive client, and he will be doing a live shop tour with us to show how his operation works. So look forward to next Friday. And Patrick, great to have you here and look forward to seeing you at the expo.
Thanks, guys.